If you're looking for a thriller book author that consistently delivers dark, twisty, page-turning stories, then Jennifer Hillier could be the author for you. Hello my friends, my name is Michaela. Welcome back to my YouTube channel where we talk about all things thriller books. In today's video, I am going to be telling you about one of my favourite thriller book authors, Jennifer Hillier. I have read all of the books that she currently has published, which is a total of 7. And today I'm going to be ranking them for you and maybe telling you which ones that you should check out first. I really appreciate you for taking the time to click on this video. If you're as passionate about thriller books as I am, I'd love it so much if you could stick around, and we're just going to get straight into the video. We're going to do this a little bit different to how I've previously done my author backlist ranking videos. I am going to tell you about the 7 books Jennifer Hillier currently has published, tell you a little bit about them, and then at the end we're going to rank them. And we're also going to go in publication order. So Jennifer Hillier's first book that came out in 2011 was called Creep. And I actually think this might be the first book that I read from Jennifer Hillier, and that was completely unintentional. Creep follows the story of Dr. Sheila Teo. She is a psychology professor who specializes in human behavior and teaches this in a college, and she starts a relationship with one of her students who is called Ethan. This little affair was supposed to be just a bit of fun, and Sheila has now met a man who she wants to settle down with, so she now needs to end her affair with Ethan. But Ethan is like, oh no, you are not ending this affair with me, and he doesn't take the news very lightly at all. And then one of his students on the campus gets stabbed to death, and Sheila starts to think that Ethan might be involved. And what comes from this is a game of cat and mouse between Sheila and Ethan. Ethan is not willing to let Sheila go, and he will do anything to make sure that he keeps her. I remember this book being quite spicy, which took me a bit by surprise. Like, I don't particularly love spice anyway, especially not like in my thriller books. But that didn't take away from the story for me, because this was still such a dark and twisty thriller book. That being said, I'm not usually a fan of cat and mouse thrillers, but I did read this like when I was very new into my thriller book journey. And like, I don't think I'd really kind of like realized my book taste at the time, so a cat and mouse didn't bother me then. However, I think if I reread it now, I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much, knowing that I'm not a fan of the cat and mouse trope. The next book that Jennifer Hillier published was in 2012, and this one is called Freak. Now, I'm not going to get too much into the plot of this because it is actually a sequel to Creep. So you do need to read Creep before you read Freak. And if I tell you the plot of this book, it will be like major spoilers for Creep, so I'm not going to get into it. But I do think it is like worth a read if you have read Creep and you haven't picked up Freak. I do think it is a very good continuation of the story if you were a fan of the first book. The Butcher was Jennifer Hillier's next release, and this was actually published in 2014, which when I was doing like my research for this video shocked me, because I actually only read this book this year. So I was like, I can't believe it was 11 years old. And this is a good one. Not to like spoil my ranking for the end of this video, but this was a 5-star thriller book for me. If you've watched any of my videos, you know about my love for this book. In 1985, there was a serial killer on the loose on the streets of Seattle, going by the name of the Beacon Hill Butcher. Edward Shank was the police officer who was investigating this at the time, and he famously caught this guy and gunned him down. Obviously, he was like infamous for this, like that's what he was known for. However, in the present day, he has just retired and he is moving into a retirement home to have a bit more of a quiet life. Edward's grandson goes out with a girl named Sam, and Sam is convinced that her mum was a victim of the butcher because like their cases were so similar. The way that her mum was attacked was very similar to like the signature style of the butcher. However, there's a problem. The butcher was caught and killed long before Sam's mum was murdered, so how could that be? Sam wants to write a book all about this and starts digging into the case, so obviously she's going to go to Edward for some help with this, as he was the one who caught the butcher. I am being very mindful with what I'm telling you about this book, because when I see people discussing this book, they discuss things that happen in the first couple chapters, which They can't be considered a spoiler because they're in the first couple of chapters, but I think you will get maximum impact for this book if you don't know that before going into it, because there were so many times that I literally gasped out loud in like the first 3 chapters of this book. And like, I want you to have the same reaction to that as well. So I am erring on the side of caution when I am speaking about this book, but I do just want to warn you that this book is so dark. I actually got my wife to read this book because I finished it and I was like, wow, this is incredible. I think she got like 20% of the way in and she was like, Michaela, you are some kind of sicko. I can't read this book. It's going to give me nightmares. So that's your little disclaimer. I do think this is like potentially one of Jennifer Hillier's darkest books, but that being said, all of her books are extremely dark. So please check up content warnings before you pick up any of these books. And I also just want to add, despite the fact that The Butcher was written in 2014, like I said, I read it in 2025. And this book stood the test of time. Like, it felt so fresh. It felt so different to like the usual books that are being churned out. So clearly, sometimes like the oldies are the way to go. Like, don't write a book off just because it was 11 years old, because this book was incredible. Wonderland was released in 2015 and I was so excited to pick up this book because it's set in like a theme park, a fairground setting, and I absolutely love that. I think there's just something like so eerie about like an empty fairground or like an empty theme park. I love it. This book has had quite a few covers as well. I'll put them all on the screen and let me know in the comments which cover you prefer. This book starts out and I genuinely got anxiety because it follows somebody that has broken into Wonderland and they are going to climb to the top of the Ferris wheel and like take a picture and post it online to get like a bit of like hype, you know? The anxiety I felt as Jennifer Hillier was describing this guy climbing this Ferris wheel. I'm not even scared of heights. And like, I was just like, what is going to happen? We then flip to the point of view of a woman named Vanessa Castro, who was a detective in the local police department. And a homeless man has just been found decaying inside Wonderland. And also the person at the start of the book who famously took that picture at the top of the Ferris wheel has now gone missing. And all of this is going to look back into the park's shady history where so many people have gone missing or bad things have happened to them and it's kind of been swept under the carpet. You know, like that rumor that like Disneyland has that nobody can be declared dead there, because that way, like, it takes away the magic. I kind of got that feeling from this book. And Wonderland was just like the perfect creepy setting. Like, it had like the magic of like the Ferris wheel, the carousels, but then you've got like a museum full of like clowns, a museum full of wax people, and like, that's terrifying. Also, talking about wax, does anybody remember the film House of Wax, the horror film? I absolutely love that. That being said, despite the really good setting of Wonderland, I kind of wished that like more of the book was set in Wonderland. Like, obviously they're investigating the crimes that took place there, but like not a huge amount of the book was set there. And this book was like 450 pages long. It was really, really long for a thriller book. So just bear that in mind going into it. But it is more of like your typical police procedural book. I'd also say that maybe this one isn't as dark as Jennifer Hillier's others. Like I gave this video with a caveat that these are very dark books, but I would say that this is probably like the least dark. But going straight from a book that wasn't that dark to a book that is extremely dark, and that is Jar of Hearts, which came out in 2018. So I think Jennifer Hillier thought like, oh, I gave you all a little break with the last one, so this time I'm going to go extra dark, because that's what this book is. Jar of Hearts follows the story of 3 childhood friends, one that was murdered, one that went to prison, and one who's been searching for the truth for all of this time. Angela Wong, who was one of the 3 girls, disappeared when she was 16 years old. Fast forward 14 years, Angela's remains have just been found in the home of Gio, her best friend. The other girl, part of this trio, is now a police detective, so she is involved in looking into this case, and she finds out that Angela was a victim of a found serial killer named Calvin. However, there's a catch. Calvin was Gio's boyfriend. So how complicit was Gio involved in her best friend's killing? This book is brutal. So brutal, with like twists that will just get you. And like, keep you turning. This, before I read The Butcher, this was like my number one dark thriller book recommendation. So this is going to have to go in like second place, but still absolutely loved it. And like when I pick up Jennifer Hillier's books, this is like the vibe that I'm expecting, you know. I don't know what that says about me. If you've read this book, you know. In 2020, Little Secrets was released, and this follows the story of Marin. Marin seems to have it all. She is a very successful businesswoman. She owns a chain of hair salons, and she is seen in her local community as like the woman who has it all, until one day her son Sebastian is kidnapped. Fast forward 1 year and Marin is still looking for her son, and she is still dealing with the fact that she doesn't know what happened to him, so she decides to hire a private investigator to help her. And he quickly finds out that her husband is not looking for their son. He's too busy having an affair. So Marin thinks, I've lost my son. I'm not about to lose my husband. This is a problem I can fix. And she vows to do exactly that, whilst also obviously trying to find out what happened to her son a year ago. Honestly, this was another banger. Like another banger, another one that I gave 5 stars. Like the reason I'm making this video is because I think Jennifer Hillier is a fantastic author, and I don't think you will go very far wrong with any of these books that you pick up. So for fear of sounding like a broken record, just know that like I've loved all of these books, but like it's a ranking video. Do you know what I mean? Like I am going to have to rank them at the end, but I do just want to add like you can pick up any of these and you'll be fine. You'll have a great time. You might be a bit traumatized afterwards, but that's what it's all about, right? In 2022, Things We Do in the Dark, which is actually technically classed as Jennifer Hillier's newest release, because since then, she hasn't released another book. We are going to talk about one that's been announced though, so we'll talk about that one next. This book follows the story of Paris Peralta. She is married to a famous comedian when he is found dead in the bathtub with a razor blade, and Paris is found covered in her husband's blood. So obviously they're like, you did it. But as bad as being charged with your husband's murder is, that's not her biggest concern, because Paris Peralta is hiding who she really is. And there's a woman who's in prison named Ruby Rees who knows exactly who Paris is, and she is going to threaten to expose her dark, dark secret. This actually has a bit of the podcast trope in it. I know it doesn't sound like it from the blurb, but it does. But I can't get into it because I feel like that would just like lead into spoiler territory, which I would never do to you. So yeah, if you are a fan of podcast in thriller books, this is one to check out. I did think this was slightly too long, but I did love like the conversations of the fact that she was married to a celebrity, because I don't know, I just find all that stuff like juicy gossip, you know. So Things We Do in the Dark, like I said, came out in 2022, and we have not had a Jennifer Hillier book since. So everybody's been like, when is she going to release another one? And it's finally been announced. Her next one is going to come out in August 2026. So it'll be 3 years since we've had a new book from her, and it is called Heart of Eyes. No, it's not. I'm lying to you. It's called Heart of Glass. I don't know where I got the eyes from. And I'm hoping like Jennifer Hillier's had a 3-year hiatus and she's going to come back with a bang, and hopefully this is going to be a best one. Yeah, this is like one of my most anticipated releases for 2026, and I've got a lot. Also, let me know what you think of the cover, because I feel like it's a bit boring. I don't really like it. I feel like it's not really giving much, is it? So the blurb for this book says that 15-year-old Lorelei Glass was the victim of the carnival serial killer, and her 2 best friends were obviously like shocked and heartbroken by this, but like they were happy because the guy is in prison. Fast forward 20 years later, the carnival killer is involved in a documentary, and he has just recanted his confession. He's like, I didn't actually do it. And it's going to cause these 2 best friends to have to face what happened in their teenage years, and they're both now living very separate lives, and which one of them is hiding something about what really happened that night. To be fair, I like the sound of the plot. I just hate the cover of this book, you know? I feel like, where's the glass? Like, you're going to call your book Heart of Glass. Let's put some glass on the cover. Or is that too basic? I don't know. Okay, so that's 8 books. Obviously, I can't rank the new one because sadly, I have not read it. So we're going to rank 7. And in 7th place, I'm giving it to Wonderland. Like, I felt disappointed after I finished reading this book, you know? Like, I went into it with, like, such high expectations. This is another one that I read this year. And, like, the whole, like, carnival funfair setting, I just wanted more, you know? So, sadly, it's going in 7th place. But as I said, I still recommend all of these books. In 6th place is going to Freak, which is the sequel to Creep. In 5th place, we've got Things We Do in the Dark, because I just felt like this one was a bit too long. Like, that is quite a theme, to be fair. I do think Jennifer Hillier's books are, like, all of them are quite long. And listen, I don't think there's anything wrong with a long book, but sometimes thriller books don't need to be 450 pages long, all right? Fight me. In 4th place, we've got Creep. And then my top 3 are all 5-star books. So, like, if you've not read any of these are the ones to, like, stop this video and go and download, like, immediately. In 3rd place, we've got Little Secrets. In 2nd place, we've got Jar of Hearts, which was my number 1 until I recently read The Butcher. So The Butcher is getting 1st place as my favourite Jennifer Hillier book. But who knows, this could all change next year when Heart of Glass gets released. And yeah, like I've said 100 times, I'm so excited. So I hope this video was helpful. If you've not read any Jennifer Hillier, or maybe you've not read some of my favourites, this will now encourage you to go and pick them up. Please let me know what your favourite Jennifer Hillier book is. I would absolutely love to know. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!